Larry from Music Masters. Going to do a little acoustic lesson today, and primarily looking at finger picking. Finger picking is certainly a big part of playing an acoustic guitar and an electric guitar too, for that matter. But there's some traditional sort of finger picking styles, and I thought we'd try a beginner, you know, a fairly beginner style of finger picking. Finger picking is not easy in the beginning anyway. It takes some coordination and takes a lot of practice. But if we simplify a basic Travis style picking and look at it with a chord progression, that actually this chord progression could be taken from the song Landslide by Fleetwood Mac, without using a capo or anything, just some traditional open chords. C, moving to what's called a G over B, G/B. Second finger moves up to the second fret on the A string, and pinky comes down here on the third fret of the B string. Just sort of sets right there like so. Some people would try this chord because, again, if you're a beginner and your pinky is weak and uncoordinated, then you could go with your first finger on the second fret and your third finger as a replacement on the third fret of the B. But anyway, that's a G over B chord, and that chord is then going to go to an A minor, and we're going to do a little change in that A minor, take the third finger off and make it an A minor 7. So C, G over B, A minor 7. Now the thing about finger picking that's important is that you have to decide which fingers you're going to use, and you have to be consistent with that. And they have to be assigned strings, and they can't change, or they can't bounce and play other strings. They have to stick with the string they're assigned to. So I'm going to use this Travis picking style is going to be dealing with 3 fingers: the thumb, index, and middle. Now the thumb is going to be in charge of the bass notes. These are the strings that are up here on the E, the A, and the D strings. I'm going to assign my index finger to the G string, the third string. And I'm going to assign my middle finger to the B string. Now there's a couple of styles of hand positioning, right hand positioning. There is the free floating style, where you're just going to let your wrist sort of float here. And then there's the anchor style, where your pinky actually is sort of anchored here to the pick guard. I'm going to probably stick with that style. I'm not going to say which is better, because it's up to the individual. Now for starters, what happens is we have the C, and the thumb will be plucking that bass note. And that's the one with the third finger on it, the A string. That's a C note. That's our C bass. And we have this alternate setup here, where we have thumb, and then the index, which is on the G string, will play. So thumb, index. Now the thumb will be alternating, and this is the thing about this style of picking, is the thumb is alternating between bass notes. So after I've played that thumb and that index, that thumb is going to come down to the D string. Okay, and it's going to pluck that. And then I've already used my index, so now I'm going to use my middle finger. And that's the alternation that takes place. We have thumb, index, thumb comes down to the D string, thumb, middle. Now you have to start very slowly, and you will make mistakes. You know, the index might skip over here and hit the B string instead of hitting the G string, or you know, the middle might come up and hit the G instead of hitting the B. But if you just practice slowly, eventually the consistency will start to come into play. Now this is going to take a while for that to happen. But once it does happen, then you can start to pick up the tempo a little bit. And when you do start picking up the tempo, mistakes will happen too. But what has to really happen for this to work is that you've got to get it, you've got to practice it so much that you can not really have to think about it anymore. I tell my students that if you can get it going and still think about what you're going to have for lunch, that's about what you want to have happen. But speed is not that big a deal. Even if you're playing it consistently at a slower tempo, that's the main thing, consistency. Now what happens with the chord progression here is we do, I'm going to play it, I'll play it through medium tempo. It's basically 2 times through the finger picking pattern on each chord. C, 2 times, G over B, 2 times, A minor 7, 2 times. Notice that it's not, once I play A minor 7, I don't go just back to C, I actually go back to the G over B. So you go through the progression, and then you go back through the progression, backwards so to speak. And one thing that will come up that will be difficult, you'll have to probably practice just 2 chords in the beginning, maybe going to this G over B. Go back to C and do it again, because oftentimes in the beginning you've got to think about the fingering, and okay, now I can go back to here. So you want to eliminate that place where there's a bit of a pause. Ultimately you want to eliminate that so that you can play in time. Playing in time, that is the most important thing. Whether it's really slow, as long as you're making your switches on time, that's the goal. Now again, this song, Landslide, was originally done with a capo on the 3rd fret, so if you're familiar with the song and it doesn't quite sound the same, that's probably why. I'll play it one more time and it'll be up to speed this time. Beginner Travis style finger picking. Good luck.